It was precisely 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, October 17th, 1957, when the phone, a relic of polished bakelite, shattered the silence of Judge Elias Thorne's sprawling Upper East Side penthouse. The city outside, a sleeping giant, offered no comfort against the shrill intrusion. Thorne, a man whose gavel usually commanded the absolute attention of a packed courtroom, now fumbled for the receiver, his voice thick with sleep as he managed a groggy, "Thorne here." The voice that answered was calm, measured, utterly devoid of any preamble or request. It delivered a single, impossible instruction regarding the high-profile arrest made just hours prior. The call lasted less than 90 seconds, a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of New York City, but it was enough to unravel Detective Michael Hogan's career, to redefine the very street politics of Harlem, and to etch a new, chilling legend into the city's concrete heart. Some calls, you see, they don't just wake you up, they fundamentally change the city itself. The question still echoes through the shadowed corridors of power, a whisper carried on the cold wind between skyscrapers. How did Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, the undisputed Harlem godfather, walk out of that precinct house less than 12 hours after Detective Hogan had him dead to rights? What unseen strings were pulled, what secret deal was brokered in the dead of night, and what kind of power could reach a judge's bedside at 3 a.m. to overturn what seemed by all accounts an ironclad case? This isn't just a story about an arrest that went sideways, it's about the invisible architecture of power in 1950s New York. A time and place where the law was often just another pawn on a much larger, more intricate chessboard. To truly grasp the audacity of what transpired that morning, you first need to understand the players, the city, and the silent war being waged for its soul. In the mid-1950s, Harlem was a vibrant, volatile cauldron of sound and ambition. Its streets pulsed with the syncopated rhythms of jazz clubs, the bustling energy of storefront businesses, and the low hum of back-alley numbers games. This was Bumpy Johnson's domain, a lucrative policy racket, a sophisticated gambling network that touched every single corner of the community, from the lowliest shoeshine boy to the wealthiest club owner. Bumpy was more than just a gangster. He was a cold, calculating intellectual, a chess master of the underworld, whose reputation for ruthless strategy and an unbreakable code of conduct preceded him like a dark herald. His danger wasn't in brute force, but in his mind. He thought 3 moves ahead, not just one, seeing the entire game, while his rivals were still focused on the next score. He understood leverage, and more importantly, he understood the true nature of power. On the other side of this increasingly fragile détente stood Detective Michael Hogan, a tenacious, old-school cop from the 28th Precinct. Hogan was a bull in a china shop of corruption, his integrity as unyielding as his pursuit of justice. His objective was clear, almost painfully so, to dismantle Bumpy's numbers operation, to stem the rising tide of heroin that was poisoning the community, and finally, to clean up Harlem, no matter the cost to himself or his career. Hogan's danger lay in his incorruptibility, his almost obsessive persistence. He was a force of nature, but one that operated within the rigid boundaries of the law, a law that, as he would soon discover, could be bent, twisted, and broken by unseen hands. The true antagonist in this unfolding drama, however, wasn't a single person. It was the insidious, unseen network of political and judicial corruption that Bumpy Johnson had cultivated over decades. A power structure so entrenched, so pervasive, that it could bend the very rules of the city itself. This network was the phantom limb of justice, always present, always influencing. And then there was Jimmy Malone, a young, ambitious precinct clerk, fresh out of the academy, whose job was to process the endless parade of arrests. Malone was eager to prove himself, but he was burdened by a sick mother and mounting medical bills, vulnerabilities that made him inadvertently a pivot point. He was privy to whispers and paperwork that hinted at the impossible, a reluctant witness to the unraveling of everything Hogan believed in. Malone's weakness was his ambition, yes, but also his fear, a potent combination that made him a dangerous observer. The stakes were immense. It wasn't just about Bumpy's reign or Hogan's career, or even the soul of Harlem itself. It was about respect, territory, and the psychological dominance that kept the entire underworld in a delicate, often bloody balance. As the decade wore on, new money began flowing in from the nascent heroin trade, bringing with it new players, new pressures, and a desperate scramble for control. The threat had been building for months. Hogan, with a small, dedicated team, had been meticulously building a case against Bumpy, leveraging new wiretap technologies and cultivating a network of nervous, desperate informants. Every Friday, like clockwork, Bumpy's collectors would make their rounds, and every Friday, Hogan's men would be a step behind, gathering intel, tightening the noose, one thread at a time. The pressure on Bumpy's operations was palpable. Collections were down, and whispers of rival families testing the waters grew louder in the back rooms and smoky clubs. It seemed inevitable that even the Harlem Godfather couldn't escape the relentless march of the law this time. Malone, hunched over his desk, processing a never-ending stack of arrest reports, had even noticed an unusual pattern. A series of small, seemingly unrelated busts on rival crews that in hindsight appeared to clear the path for Bumpy's own expansion. A chilling thought, but one he dared not voice. Then came the night of the raid. Hogan's team, acting on a carefully timed tip, swept into a clandestine gambling den on 125th Street. The air was thick with cigar smoke and the frantic rustle of money, but at its heart there was Bumpy Johnson himself, surrounded by ledgers and a small fortune in cash. It was Hogan's moment of triumph, the culmination of years of relentless pursuit, the justice he had so tirelessly chased finally within his grasp. Bumpy was booked, fingerprinted and locked away, the evidence against him seemingly airtight, a meticulous tapestry woven from wiretaps, informant testimony, and cold, hard numbers. Hogan could almost taste the promotion, the commendation, the quiet satisfaction of a job done right. But there was a problem. A detail that only Malone, working the late shift, saw flicker across the judge's desk. A single handwritten note on a docket change slipped in after midnight, altering a critical procedure. It was an anomaly, a tiny ripple in the vast ocean of paperwork, but Malone's gut tightened, and then, the next morning, the impossible happened. Bumpy Johnson, the man Hogan had personally cuffed and processed, walked out of the precinct house, a subtle, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips, while Hogan stood stunned, clutching the very evidence that had suddenly, inexplicably become utterly worthless. The ringing telephone at 3 a.m. had done its work. The precinct house foyer, usually a cacophony of hurried footsteps and official pronouncements, fell into an almost reverent silence. Bumpy Johnson walked out, not with the swagger of a man who'd beaten the system, but with the quiet dignity of one who had merely confirmed its unspoken rules. His subtle smirk, barely there, spoke volumes to those who understood. A silent, chilling message delivered without a single word. It was a public spectacle of psychological dominance, not a bloodbath, but far more impactful. The city held its breath, waiting for the fallout. Hogan, still clutching the now worthless evidence, felt the floor give way beneath him. The meticulously constructed case, the years of tireless pursuit, the informants he'd risked, all dissolved into thin air. He stood there, a statue of utter defeat, a man whose unyielding integrity had just been shattered against an invisible wall. The fallout was swift, brutal, and entirely predictable to anyone who understood how power truly moved in New York. Hogan, his career in tatters, was reassigned within the next 48 hours. It was a public humiliation, a quiet exile to a desk job in a forgotten precinct, far from the pulse of Harlem. It effectively ended his chances of ever truly challenging the city's entrenched powers again. He became a cautionary tale, a ghost in the machine, proof that some battles were rigged from the start. His incorruptibility, once his greatest strength, had become his fatal flaw in a system designed to resist it. In the 72 hours that followed Bumpy's release, the ripple effect spread through the underworld like a cold current. A rival family, one that had dared to encroach on Bumpy's territory, believing Hogan's arrest signaled a power vacuum, suddenly retreated. Their leaders, once boastful, made hurried, whispered apologies through intermediaries. The message was clear. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a gangster, he was a force of nature, protected by powers far beyond the reach of a street cop or a district attorney. His control solidified, not through overt violence, though that was always an option, but through the undeniable demonstration that he operated on a level far beyond the mere street. He pulled strings that connected directly to the highest offices, threads woven into the very fabric of the city's legal and political landscape. Jimmy Malone, the young precinct clerk, watched it all unfold from his quiet corner of the office. He saw the flicker on the judge's desk, the swift change in Hogan's demeanor from triumph to despair, the quiet, almost imperceptible nod Bumpy gave a passing police captain as he walked free. Malone, burdened by his sick mother and mounting medical bills, had inadvertently become a reluctant witness to the true nature of power. The idealism he'd brought to the academy evaporated like mist in the harsh morning light. He quietly requested a transfer, moving to a desk job in a quieter borough, forever changed by what he had witnessed. The incident had burned itself into his memory, a stark lesson that some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud. He learned that the law in this city wasn't always a shield, but sometimes just another lever for those who knew how to pull it. Bumpy Johnson continued his reign, not just as a mob boss, but as a legend, a testament to the intricate dance between crime and power. He understood that true power isn't about who you can beat in a fair fight, it's about who you can control without ever raising a hand. It's about cultivating influence in the dark, weaving a web of favors and obligations that binds everyone from the lowliest street dealer to the highest-ranking judge. He didn't fight the system. He became an indispensable part of it, shaping it to his will with an unseen hand. The phone call at 3 a.m. wasn't an act of desperation. It was the final, elegant move in a game of chess Bumpy had been playing for years, a testament to his foresight and his mastery of the city's unseen architecture. Justice in the concrete jungle of 1950s New York was not a blind ideal. It was a commodity, bought and sold, traded and bartered, just like everything else. The tale of Detective Hogan and Bumpy Johnson serves as a stark reminder. Some strings in this city reach higher than the law. They snake through boardrooms and judicial chambers, through back alleys and smoke-filled offices, connecting the powerful and the powerless in a silent, unbreakable pact. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is justice truly blind, or just another lever, manipulated by those who know precisely when and how to pull it? On that Tuesday, October 17th, 1957, at 3 a.m., New York learned that the loudest victories are sometimes won in the quietest moments, leaving behind only whispers and the cold echo of an impossible truth. If this story of unseen power and broken justice caught your attention, then hit that like button right now. Don't just watch history unfold, be a part of understanding it. What are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel for more untold stories that challenge everything you thought you knew. And tell us in the comments, do you think Bumpy Johnson was a criminal mastermind or a victim of a corrupt system? Share this story with someone who needs to hear about the real power behind the headlines. You won't believe the next one we've uncovered.